New reporting this afternoon on the growing number of people who have died because of the Camp Fire in Butte County back in 2018. You'll recall that it destroyed the town of Paradise. Well, doctors tell the Chico Enterprise Record that at least 50 more people have died from complications during and after that fire. And joining me now to talk more about it is Camille Von Cannell with the Chico Enterprise Record and also a core member with the Report for America. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. The official death toll stands at 85, but you found the toll is much higher.
Yeah, so, and we're talking about the indirect death toll. So these are people who died of complications after the fire. And my process to get at that number, 50, which is still very much of an underestimate, was to look at wrongful death claims in the case against PG&E. So families are, with their lawyers, are claiming that their loved ones passed away because of an indirect result of the Camp Fire, and they're seeking some sort of compensation or recognition from PG&E, which was found to have caused the spark that led to the fire because of that. I was looking through all these claims because they have been vetted by medical experts and lawyers who have gathered medical evidence linking these deaths to the fire.
And so what did you find? Describe some of those wrongful death claims.
Yeah, so the family I featured most prominently in my story, the mom is named Tammy Strong and her son is named Donovan Iverson. He was 24, he lived with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, used a wheelchair and breathing support, so was already in a very vulnerable condition. And when they fled the fire under intense stress, and that caused his chemistry and his bodily chemistry to go off and cause internal injuries. And he was kind of in and out of the hospital for a few weeks after the fire, and eventually passed away, which was devastating for the family who had already lost everything. And they decided to file a wrongful death claim. And that's just one example, but it's typical in that it is a person who was already in a vulnerable condition before the fire, and for whom the fire was just too much. And in these communities that were burned by the Camp Fire, Paradise, Magalia, Concow, Butte Creek Canyon, it was there was already a lot of people who were elderly. It was a very it was an older population, so you had high rates of vulnerabilities already before the fire.
And is that what you primarily found when reviewing those wrongful death claims, is that a majority of the victims were vulnerable and elderly people living in those areas?
Yeah, absolutely. The vast majority, according to the lawyers in my research, fit that profile exactly, that they were elderly or already frail and died shortly after the fire. And there are other cases that aren't all identified in the database I analyzed of people who are still suffering and dying now of complications from the fire, either respiratory issues or injuries even, or mental and emotional anguish. And that's still causing people to die now. But that isn't all captured in the database I analyzed.
Well, thank you for shedding light on what really are the forgotten victims of the Camp Fire. Thank you again for taking the time to talk with us, and we'll see how this plays out, these cases against PG&E. Thank you.
Thanks for your interest.